Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for checking me out. Hey, I wanted to tell you, I know yesterday I made a video about my experience with the Holy Spirit. I know that I had to sacrifice things to have the Holy Spirit come and be with me, and I'm glad I did that. That is true. All that is, I mean, it's as true as it gets. And I know I told you that I had a dream, and I want to share my experiences of the dream with you. Okay, so let me just jump right into it. What happened was when my dream started, I was standing in front of this old church. Down here in the South, we got a bunch of old churches. It's just as old as it gets. It had to be at least 100 years old. And from the outside, I remember it looked vacant. I walked inside of the church, and the church is full of people that's sitting in it, like they're getting ready for a service, and it's just completely full. And everybody was looking straight forward. I remember that. They weren't moving their heads from side to side. Everybody was moving straight forward, and they were whispering something. I couldn't make out what they were whispering, but I could hear the whispers, just the sound of people whispering, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. So, I remember walking around, and I usually don't have details like this in my dreams, but I remember the way the old wood smelled in the church and the way the carpet felt on my feet. It was just, the details were so real. I usually don't have anything like that in my dreams. And this is a very long dream. It took all night for me to dream this, and I must have hung around in that church just, you know, walking around and looking at things for a couple hours, and nobody said anything to me. Nobody even noticed me. And I noticed there's a pulpit at the front of the church. And next to the pulpit, to the left and to the right, are two doors. And they're kind of far off from the pulpit, like the pulpit where the pastor's at in the middle. And there's a door to the left and a door to the right. And they were, probably 15 yards away from the pulpit. Well, all of a sudden, on the left side, this demon walks into the church. And, there weren't really any big details about the demon that stood out. It was more just like a black shadow. And you could see the fingers, the arms, the hands, the legs, the head. You could see all that. It was just a shadow. And as soon as he walks into the church through that door on the left, this lady stands up in the church and just starts freaking out, okay? She just starts going crazy, and the demon notices her, and the demon starts moving toward her direction. Well, by this time, I had found a place to sit down in the sanctuary, and I stood up and I looked at the demon, and I heard the demon's voice tell me to sit down with the rest of the cowards. He told me, sit down with the rest of the cowards, and it was just a loud voice, and it was very demanding. And I did not see his mouth move, but I heard this. And so the woman runs through the door that's on the right side of the pulpit, and the demon goes after her. And I remember I made my way to the door, and it was like it took everything in me to make my way to the door. It was like walking in sand. It took so much energy to get to the door. And as soon as I walked through the door, it was complete darkness. It was like being in a dungeon. So I carried on in this darkness, and I remember seeing it was completely dark, but it felt so hot. That's another thing too. And usually when I dream, I don't have those types of feelings, but it was so hot and it was so dark. And occasionally I would see these red eyes that were looking at me. And I was walking, and I was hearing, these loud growling and these loud noises that the demon was making, but all I could see was the red eyes. All of a sudden, this demon appears in front of me, and he's 20 or 30 yards away, and he just starts putting the beat down on me. The beat down of my life. He is standing 20 yards away, but he is punching me and kicking me and slamming me so quickly, and then going back to where he was. Like, sometimes he would come close to me and I would get a hit in, but I didn't stand a chance. He was picking me up, slamming me on the ground, and this would go on for 30 or 45 seconds, and then he would be gone again. So I would pick myself up off the ground, and I would walk some more. And this would happen. I would receive this beat down I would say 4 times when I was down there, and it was all the same. And one time, I believe it was the second or third time he attacked me, he even shoved his entire fist inside of my mouth from 30 yards away. And I remember tasting blood. I remember what it felt like when this demon beat me down. I mean, it felt terrible. I really felt like I was being beaten. I mean, no exaggeration. I felt everything in the dream. It was very, very painful. So, this took place 3 or 4 times. I had just been beat down. And I would say the fourth time the demon had beat me down. And I was thinking to myself, like, that's it, I give up. Whatever happens, happens. This is going to be the end for me. This is going to be the end of your boy Randy, that's what I was thinking. And it was bad, and I was laying on the ground and I was beat up, and I heard this voice tell me, "Get up, son." And it was a real authoritative voice, it was demanding. It was very powerful. So I stood to my feet, and I could hear the demon from a distance mocking that voice, saying, "Get up, son." Is mocking the voice. So this time when I got up, I noticed that there were these two lights that were pretty far away. It looked like there was 100 yards away. I couldn't tell what was going on, but there were these two lights. And all of this darkness, I could see these two lights. I mean, the only other thing I seen was the demon, and the demon was so dark that you could actually see the demon in this darkness, in this dark dungeon. So I made my way toward the two lights, and I could hear laughing. I could see the red eyes. I could hear the demon, but he didn't bother me anymore. And I got closer and closer and closer to these two glorious lights that were, in this dark dungeon. And it was kind of far off, but I made my way to it. And it took everything that I had in me to move toward these two lights. So I make my way closer to the two lights, and all of a sudden, the demon makes his way out and attacks me again, and I'm able to get up. But I remember it took everything in me. I made my way up again. I made my way to the two lights, and when I got to these two lights, I noticed that they were two mirrors, these two illuminated mirrors, one on the left side, one on the right side, and they were 10 yards apart, and they were just these big, beautiful, glorious mirrors in this dark dungeon. So I made my way to the mirrors. I walked through the mirrors. I mean, I had one on the left side, one on the right side. I walked between the two mirrors, and I'm beat up, I'm dragging, I'm sore, I'm having a hard time moving. And I walked between these two glorious mirrors, and I looked and seen my reflection in the mirrors, and I noticed my reflection. I had on all this armor. I had on all this body armor. I had on a glorious helmet, armor from head to toe. And next to me were these two lions, one on my left side and one on my right side. And they were just glorious, as big of a lion as you've ever seen on National Geographic or at the zoo or anything like that. I mean, they were just huge. And these beautiful lions were both wearing a helmet just like mine, that looked just like mine. So once I saw that I had on this armor and I had these two lions, the whole demeanor of the dream changed. I mean, everything changed. And at this point, I knew that the Holy Spirit was with me. When I was in the sanctuary of the church, I had thoughts of God. I had feelings of the Holy Spirit. I knew those things. But when I came into this dungeon, there was no thoughts of the Holy Spirit. There was no thoughts of anything good. I do remember being in the dungeon and thinking about my wife. And I was thinking, gosh, if I could just find my wife, everything would be all right. But at this point, I've got this armor on. I've got these two lions next to me, and everything was so realistic. Like, I remember feeling the lion's tail brush up against my leg as we were walking, and now I could see him. I could look down and see him, and I could look and see the armor on my arms. I mean, the whole demeanor of the dream changed. I had thoughts about God, but, the entire time I was in this dungeon, up until this point, I had no feelings like that, It's like I couldn't think of God or something. So the demon appears out of nowhere again, and he's 20 yards away again at least, and this time he sees me and he shrieks. It's like this, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a child that is so scared and so frightened. It'll kind of break your heart when you hear it. He sees me and he is so scared So scared. I remember the way he took his little fingers and put them next to his mouth. You know, it was like he literally got smaller, like he was a scared child. And I stood there and I looked at him for 5 or 6 seconds, and then all I did was point at him. And as soon as I pointed at this demon, the lions just took off and ripped this demon apart, and they were ripping the demon apart, and there was no blood. They were ripping his arms and his legs off and parts of his body, and they were carrying it off somewhere and coming back almost instantly. As quick as it would happen, the lion would be out of sight, and the lions would come back, to grab another piece, just carrying it off somewhere. It was truly bizarre. And this didn't take long. I mean, in my dream, it took a few minutes, but it could have been an hour long. I'm not sure, because this entire dream was throughout the course of the night. So, I continue walking after the lions have returned next to my side. I continue walking, and I remember I just had a better feeling at this point. I felt good. I had a feeling from the Holy Spirit. I really felt a lot better. At a distance, I could see another light. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I could move easier now. I still felt sore. My body still felt bad, but I could move a little easier. And I had the lions next to me as I made my way toward this light. And, all I could say is I had a better feeling, but I was still surrounded with darkness. I couldn't see any better. It was still completely dark. I could still see the red eyes. I could still hear laughing and still hear the demons doing things. So I made my way closer to this light, and as I got closer to it, I realized it was an illuminated door. It was a door, and it was illuminated on the outsides of it. Like, if you see a room where the door is closed and it's completely dark inside the room, but you can see the light around the edges of the door, it was kind of like that. So I walked up to the door and I opened up the door. As soon as I opened up the door, it was like I was back into a more glorious church. It was lit up. It was nice. I was out of the darkness, and there, standing there, is my wife, and she's wearing her wedding dress, the same dress we got married in. She was wearing her wedding dress, and I remember I was just overwhelmed with happiness when I seen her, and I embraced her. I held her, and I remember telling her, I think the woman is all right. I think the woman is okay. The woman that the demon originally went after in the sanctuary, I think the woman is all right. I mean, this was a while ago at this point, but I remembered the woman, and I remember thinking, I think the woman's okay. And my wife, she told me, yes, the lady is okay. Everything's okay. And we held one another, and I was just so happy to see her. Like I said, when I was in the dungeon, I remember thinking, if I could just find my wife, everything would be okay. And we held one another, and that was it. That was the end of the dream. I woke up, and I remember when I woke up, I felt really, really sore. I felt sore. I felt beat up. I got out of bed. I noticed that I had been sweating in the bed. Like, it was 72 degrees in our house, so there was no reason for me to be sweating like this, but the dream caused me to sweat this way. I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. I made my way to the bathroom. Like, my body felt so sore while I was laying there, but as I got out of bed, it felt better. My body felt better, but I was so sore when I woke up. I walked into the restroom to use the bathroom, and I looked at my face in the mirror when I was in the bathroom, and I noticed that the side of my eye right here was black, like I had been punched in the face, and I had some marks on the top of my head, some marks under my eyes. I mean, it really looked like my face had been beat up, like I had been beat up for this demon for real. I mean, it wasn't like my face was completely destroyed, like Rocky or something like that. It was nothing like that, but it looked like I had been punched in the face right on the side of the eye, and my wife took pictures of this. And, there was other parts of my face that looked kind of beat up too. It was really bizarre, and, I was thinking, like, I've tried to use all this logic. I woke my wife up at that point, and she was not hard to wake up. She never is, and she told me the entire time I had this dream, I was laying in bed, and I had my arm around her, and I was shaking violently, I was shaking bad while I had this dream. And she told me she had this feeling like, just let him go. He's all right. Don't try to wake him up. He's going to be okay. And another bizarre thing that happened was, and my wife took pictures of my face, you know, the parts of my face that looked like I'd been punched. She took pictures of it. And at this point, my body feels a little sore, but almost all of the sore is almost gone. Another strange thing that happened was when this dream was taking place and I was laying in the bed, I urinated in the bed, you know, and I peed. I'm 40 years old, you know. I have not peed in the bed in probably 25 years, you know. It's been a long time. I urinated in the bed, and I just, you know, I soaked me and my wife with this, and you know, I sweat while this was going on. I mean, and that's really bizarre because, like, usually when I'm laying down in the bed, if I do have to pee, nothing's going to happen until I wake up and go to the bathroom in the morning, you know? Like, I really have to lay there and strain. I would have to strain so hard just to do something like that while I'm laying in the bed. And that was strange to me. And you know, at one point when I was getting the beat down in this dungeon from the demon, I remember he came up so quick from 30 yards away and put his knee into my stomach, and it hurt so bad, you know, when he did that. And I think that was when I urinated in the bed, but I can't be sure. But I've tried to use all this different logic, you know, like I was thinking, okay, I've never had a problem sleepwalking before. I've never done that. I've never had a problem with night terrors or anything like that. Um, you know, I've had dreams before, but nothing like this. Nothing where I could remember this kind of detail. And, you know, I tried to think maybe I got up and I walked through the house and I punched myself in the eye or something, but it didn't wake me up. Or for some weird reason, it didn't wake me up. Or I started thinking like maybe my wife punched me in the face while I was sleeping, you know, not meaning to, and somehow it didn't wake me up. I don't know. But it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, you know, this is a true story. My wife has the pictures of my face from when I woke up this night, and you know, I'm looking at it like it's a revelation from God, you know. But thank you for listening to this story. I hope it entertained you. I hope you enjoyed it, and you know, I'll get back to you soon, okay? We're going to make another video soon about some other things, but I hope this experience, you know, entertains you and it means something to you. And thank you for listening. Thank you so much for checking this out, and we'll see you again soon.